Hi folks, you're with Tassus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to, using the midterm elections as a backdrop, I'd like to just talk a little bit about elections elsewhere in the world, and some of them in Australia, and just sort of put across the understanding that vote curation, imaginative and creative vote curation, doesn't need to be done on a massive scale to swing the outcome of not all, but many elections. Now, when you're in a landslide situation, it's much harder to vote curate because you have to do it on a massive scale. But even there, there's going to be a number of key electoral districts or regions or states or whatever and the difference between the winner and the loser in those totally and hotly contested states may be just a small number of votes, maybe less than 1%, maybe less than 0.5%, that sort of thing. So the decision, the outcome, the electoral outcome, if you get a few of those districts together, the difference between the winning and the losing party, even if there's 100 million plus votes being cast, the difference may be less than 100,000 votes. And to give you some idea, John Kennedy in the US presidential election, I think he won that election by about a little over 100,000 votes, and then I think he got 24 of the 26 states. So that's what a close run thing that was. So the states or areas or regions or electoral districts that are going to be very tightly contested, where maybe there's just a handful of votes decided, those hotly contested districts in themselves can decide who wins the overall majority in the election. There's a case in Australia a while ago where this particular, I think it was a regional election, and where the one party decided that it was very close. It was going to come down to the wire. Their polling had suggested it was almost exactly 50-50. The electorate was split, so the voting was going to be 50-50. And they decided, well, hey, all we need is to get into 2 or 3 districts and just add a few hundred votes to each one, and we can win this, they decided, given how close it is. Now, if it's going to be a landslide one way or other, it's very difficult to curate votes there, because you've got to do a shitload of cheating and so on. But in areas where that's very tight, where regardless whether you curate votes or not, 50, 100 votes can decide the outcome, then those are the areas where the vote curators go to, because that's where you don't need to do much cheating in order to change the outcome. So anyway, in this electoral district, which has, let's just round the numbers off and say it's 100,000 voters in this district, and it's one of I think, 60 or 70 electorates in this particular region, but they decided it was going to be 50-50. Their polling said, look, it's going to be 50-50. So why don't we just register dead people to vote, and then we'll just put the votes in. We've got a couple of sympathetic people in the electoral commission, the people that oversee the election, and they've promised, as long as we don't go crazy, they've promised to look the other way, and so let's register 500 dead people to vote, and then we'll get a few people to come along and vote multiple times. So we'll round it off to say 600 votes. We figure that's enough out of the 100,000. We figure that's enough to swing it in our favour, because we think it's going to be, 200 or 300 votes either way is going to be the maximum range. And it's probably going to be less, but let's just make sure we win it. If we're going to go to this trouble, we don't want to be in doubt. Let's just do 500 plus 500 dead people plus 100 double voting and 600 votes we've invented. We're good to go. So they did win that district by 320 votes or something like that. So the point being, if they hadn't register those dead people to vote and done the double voting, they would have lost that seat. Now, it turns out that that was material in deciding the election, and they did it in another district as well, not as aggressively as in that one, and they won by one seat. They had a 1-seat majority. So now, if they hadn't done that vote rigging, they would have lost by 2 seats. So it did affect the outcome, but they only needed to go to 2 districts again that were very tightly contested, very, very close, and their attitude. They got caught actually. This or one of the guys got caught. He took the fall for all the guys that organised it, but the just looking through the attitude was, well, look, it's close anyway. I mean, it's within a margin of error, and there were people who would have voted for us, but they stuffed up. They screwed up filling out the forms or something. So we've only invented a few hundred, 800 votes out of several millions. I mean, who cares? I mean, it's not a big deal. What's your problem? Gee. And so they don't really see it that they've done anything wrong. They just help things along a little bit, but we haven't really done anything wrong. What's your problem here? Whether this party wins by 1 or 2 seats or that party wins by 1 or 2 seats, the people can't make up their minds. It's kind of split right down the middle. We just helped it over the line a little bit. So we haven't really done anything wrong. And their attitude when the guy was caught, his attitude was, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just a victim of serious bad luck. Just because you stupid sort of pearl clutching people are stressing out over a couple of we were just using our imagination. We were just being a little creative. That's all. We weren't doing anything wrong. And so the guy had no, there was no remorse, nothing at all. He didn't think he'd really done anything wrong. He just thought it was like real bad luck he was caught out, and that's all. But nonetheless, he did get caught out, and he did a very short stint in prison for it. I mean, he could have done up to 20 years or something for that, but he did months. He only got months in prison, and he was out. Now, as soon as he got out, he was by the party that he cheated for. He was rewarded with a job that paid nearly 9 times the average wage. 9 times the average wage. Who's employed almost immediately after getting out of prison, and has now been employed with a consulting organisation that does liaison between government and the globalist, mass migration type fronts and so on, where he is paid well over $1 million a year plus benefits, and this is for an ex-con. So it goes to show you that cheating and registering dead people to vote, pays handsomely in the long run. But that's how it is. So if we look at any election, it could be the United States or it could be anywhere. If you look at, say, the 2020 presidential election, there were three states where the winner won by less than an alleged 25,000 votes each. So, well, less than that actually. It's probably 40,000 votes. So, just 40-odd thousand votes, had they gone the other way, would have decided the outcome. And so it goes to show that in those tightly contested races, you don't need to register that many dead people or be that inventive with curating the vote. You can just, and given, say, the American election where you get, 130 million or something people voting for something, you invent 50,000 votes, it's enough to get candidate A across the line rather than candidate B or that sort of thing. But that's all it takes to swing the outcome. So you don't need to curate, just in terms of that. Now, if you're not really sure where things will fall, where the cards are going to fall, you may go crazy and curate, 16, 17 million votes just to make sure you got it all covered, where not putting anything to chance. And there are those who may suggest those sort of things happen, and probably do, by the way. So, but I just want to sort of make the point here that actually the amount of votes that you need to curate often doesn't need to be very much. Even where there's over 100 million votes being cast, 50,000 curated votes in the right places is enough to decide it and swing it in one or another direction. This sort of used to be the domain of banana republics, but increasingly, particularly since the globalists have taken over, it's seen as just how you do things as the West increasingly becomes more and more a banana republic. Remember, the globalists have no time for voting and elections and what the people are concerned about, the issues of the people. That's irrelevant. That means nothing to those driving the globalist project. And elections, voting and what the people want, it creates uncertainty. It creates uncertain outcomes. It creates an uncertain future. And to the globalists, that is intolerable. They will not tolerate uncertainty, and so they must have certainty. And you see that in the way they control the media. Everything they control, they come from a perspective of we must have total certainty. And they're not prepared to accept the uncertainty and the varied possible outcomes that result from elections. And so it's not it's not a matter of speculation. They'll do whatever is necessary to make sure they have certainty for their outcomes, and which is what they're doing right now. You've been with Tassless today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.